Hey everyone. Hello. Charles, are you there for a start? Charles is going to be via that video camera over there. Is he there?
Hey everyone!
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the founder of Cardano, Charles Hoskinson.
Good to be here.
Charles, I know I'm going to be talking to you like this just so it looks better for the audience. I'm not putting my back to you, okay? All good? Sweet.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, sweet. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us virtually at Oz CryptoCon 2024. We really appreciate it, mate. Yeah, everyone here in Australia, it's obviously a shame you couldn't be here. Sunny Sydney right now. Are you much of a beach guy, Charles?
I grew up in Hawaii, so I'm actually, I lived on the island of Maui, and I go to Baldwin Beach about 2 or 3 times a week. I surfed and everything, so I've never skied, but I was a surfer kid.
Lovely, mate. Well, if you ever get to Sydney, there's plenty of Cardano maxis at Bondi Beach. So definitely make your way there. Look, you've been a busy guy, man. I'm going to be with you for about 30 minutes. I'm going to shoot off some questions. Then we're going to go to the audience for some questions as well. Look, recently you've been at SpaceX. You're at the headquarters. You've been in Washington with lawmakers. And you've also been, I almost fell off the chair there. And you've also obviously been gearing up for the highly anticipated launch of your privacy-focused blockchain midnight as well. So a lot's going on. I think we'll start with the SpaceX visit. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors online at the moment that there's potentially a partnership brewing between Cardano and SpaceX. What are you actually allowed to tell us about that right now?
I can't comment on that.
Can't comment. Great start to the interview. Good stuff. I made Charles laugh, guys. That is a good achievement. Alrighty. Well, look, we're going to go into midnight. Obviously, highly anticipated. You've been working on this now for a number of years. It's a privacy-focused blockchain. So why the need for privacy on a blockchain?
Well, it's so far beyond just a blockchain. It's kind of the first in a class of new types of blockchains. I like to call it kind of like a metachain. It's a layer 2 to everybody. But it kind of takes 2 ideas and puts them together, and it allows us to enter in a new age of cryptocurrencies. So the first is this idea of private smart contracts. So not just privacy, but programmable privacy. So what this allows you to do is you can take any business logic that you have, and you have a public side and a private side, and it allows you on a blockchain to finally write code for the private side. So whether you're running McDonald's and the cash in the cash register, or how much per hour your employees make, or if you're running a big multinational company and you have your HR and legal contracts or securities that have broker-dealer relationships or classified information or medical records, there's always a public side and a private side. For the first time ever, you could bring that to the blockchain space, and instead of running it off-chain, you have a place to reconcile and start trading and dealing with that. Second, it adds this idea of combining identity. So you have DID, self-sovereign identity, selective disclosure. You can put those 2 pieces together, and then you can program out all the things we need for the $20 trillion real-world asset revolution, which is coming this bull cycle in 2025. And we're tasting it now that Trump has won. The metachain component is that the old thinking was build a blockchain. It's a layer 1, try to take out network effective Ethereum or the network effective Bitcoin or network effective Solana. We're so far beyond that. You know, when you build an innovative new thing, you don't say, God, the only way I can win is kill Google or Microsoft or Apple. Instead, you want to be friends with everybody. You want to partner with everybody. So Midnight is actually going to be dropped to almost all the major blockchains, over 100 million users. And in those chains, we have this idea of hybrid applications. So you can stay on Ethereum or Solana or Cardano or BNB or other supported ecosystems. And what you could do is pay your transaction fees in the underlying currency of those systems. So you pay your fees in Ether or Sol or ADA. And under the hood, Midnight just figures all that stuff out. So it adds an extension, and it's almost like a layer 2 to everybody. And because of that, it has bridges connected to everybody, and it makes it seamless to basically upgrade your Bitcoin applications or your Ethereum applications or Cardano applications to have that computational privacy. What this means is that's going to be the best place for DAOs, the best place for regulated applications, the best place for security tokens and real-world assets, and also the best place for games. Because every game has a private state, especially if it's multiplayer. Imagine poker. You have somebody's cards and you have what's on the table and there's what's in your hand, or Battleship, or a very complex game that person has constructed and it's competitive. You have a private state and a public state. So for GameFi, metaverses, real world assets, I think this is the missing mile. And we've been working on it for over 6 years. We've written dozens of papers and we've invented some truly remarkable technology. And next year, we're going to be able to bring this to market kind of as a gift to the entire ecosystem. There's no ICO. It's just dropped to everybody. No VCs invested in it. I spent about 100 million of my own money just trying to bring this thing to fair. And I'm so excited about it because this is the last mile of crypto. Once we have this, we can blockchain everything in the world.
Amazing. And Charles, I guess where is the line drawn, though, on privacy for the blockchain before it does challenge the idea of blockchain technology itself?
I think it's a natural extension. And what you do is you sort this out not on a protocol basis, you sort this out on an application by application basis. It's not my place to say how medical records should be kept private. And it's not my place to say what's private in your DAO or your DApp or your video game. You, the developer, should be able to choose that. So what you do is you give people a great toolkit, you make it programmable. In this case, the programming language is TypeScript. So that's pretty easy to use. And you give them great frameworks like Hyperledger or Dennis, for example, which is our div framework that we built for over the last 7 years. And these pieces together give you everything that you need to kind of sort that out and figure that what's best for you, your users, your customers, and let people pay in the currencies they want to pay in. Bitcoiners shouldn't have to go sell their Bitcoin to go use the rest of cryptocurrency space. Give them DeFi. And now because of our partnership with Boss, we can do that. And it's the same with Ethereum and Sol. This is something that brings everybody together. And actually, to that point, as a metachain, its consensus comes from multiple blockchains at the same time. So as Midnight evolves, we have a technology called Minotaur that we co-developed with the guys who went on and created EigenLayer. And what this allows is what's called multi-resource consensus. So you can put multiple consensus algorithms together. So in the blockchain space right now, we're proof of work versus proof of stake and proof of history and this and this and this. Well, what if you just put them all together into one system? And blocks are actually made by different validators, which means you can pay token rewards and transaction fees to multiple blockchains at the same time. So for everybody's perspective, Midnight feels like a natural extension of their own system, and you let the developers decide what they want to do with that. Also, by having this technology, you have a consensus system that's directly observing all the different blockchains. And you have a pub subsystem where you can watch these things and subscribe to these things, which translates to one of the best Oracle systems ever built inside the cryptocurrency ecosystem, and one of the best bridge systems ever built, because you can use ZK recursion for trustless bridging. So it solves so many problems all at the same time. And because everybody is getting block rewards, they all have an incentive to keep it around.
Amazing. And look, following Donald Trump's victory, your company, Input Output, announced that they'd be launching a crypto policy office in the United States as well. Very exciting. Can you tell us why you felt the need and urgency to launch this?
We have a window of time, about 6 to 9 months, to get a real significant crypto piece of legislation passed in the United States. And for the last 3 years, we as an industry here in the United States have endured the brutal oppression of Gary Gensler and in the Biden regime, and they lost. One of the reasons they lost the election was that they were anti-crypto. So the American people have given the Trump administration a mandate, and they said, you know what, no more regulation through enforcement, and let's take this forever out of the hands of the SEC. Let's pass a law, and let's create a framework that's fair. It doesn't mean it's carte blanche, you can do whatever you want. It means that there's now going to be clear rules that everybody can follow who are reasonable. So we're part of that conversation, and I've been talking pretty extensively with the legislative branch, and likely there's going to be counterparties very soon now that a Treasury Secretary has been selected on the executive branch. We're going to work together, probably testify before the Senate soon when the Republicans take power there, and we're going to have a dialogue about how to get a law passed that handles asset classification and probably a lot of other things like the discussion of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, stablecoin standards, how we're going to use digital signatures in the future of commerce, smart contract rights, DAOs. There's dozens of things to think about in the cryptocurrency space. And there's going to be all hands on deck. The whole industry has to come together. And we also have to look at international regulation. We got to look at the ADGM over in Abu Dhabi. We got to look at VARA over in Dubai, the JFSA over in Japan. We have to go look at MiCA in Europe, the FCA in the UK. We got to go and we got to talk to all these guys and say, how do we get the regulation where it needs to go? Because President Trump gave everybody a mandate. He said he wants the United States of America to be the best place in the world to found, fund, and run a cryptocurrency business. So that's what we're going to do as an industry. We got a 2-year total window legislatively because typically presidents lose the midterm. And so with unified government, the House, the Senate, the presidency, all in the hands of pro-crypto people, a pro-crypto commerce secretary who's involved with Tether and a whole bunch of other things, and a pro-crypto treasury secretary who also is pro-crypto. I think we can get it done. It's just we have to set the goalpost appropriately of what's an administrative change, an executive order, and what's required on the law side. And we're going to work very closely with a lot of different people to get this done as Americans because it's long overdue.
And you've been very vocal recently about Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong being the best candidate to lead crypto policy under the Trump administration. Why Armstrong? Out of all the crypto great leaders out there, why do you believe Armstrong would be the best candidate for this job?
Because Armstrong's done it all. He had an IPO and runs a publicly traded cryptocurrency business. He's been sued by the SEC, and he knows firsthand how bad regulation by enforcement can be. Running an exchange, he has to have a deep and detailed understanding of how the markets of cryptocurrency work. And he's listed so many different cryptocurrencies. And so he has relationships with pretty much every major cryptocurrency DeFi application and foundation. And he's launched his own cryptocurrency with Base. So when you look at all of that, you look at the people he has behind him and his entirety legacy, as well as how he's been advocating for fair regulation, like with FIT 21, there's just very few people that have that breadth of experience and perceived neutrality. The problem with guys like me or Anatoly or Vitalik is we created things like Cardano and Solana and Ethereum. And thus there's a perception in the industry that we would try to bias things in a certain direction. But when you're an exchange, you have every incentive to create a neutral marketplaces for as many tokens as possible. Everybody comes to you, and you want regulatory frameworks where you actually are able to list everybody and you can talk to everybody. And one of the reasons why Coinbase hasn't become that everything store is because of the terrible regulation through enforcement. And a lot of their innovation has been curtailed. And they're just a very sophisticated organization with a lot of people. And you don't pick just one person, you pick an ecosystem of people. And so I think he has that unique ability within his own company and within the industry to bring a lot of people together. And I believe that what would likely occur is a commission with a subcommission by subject area, whether it be stable coins or DEXs or what have you. And I think Brian could lead that and get that done. But there are a lot of great other candidates too, like Cory Gardner. He's a former senator from the state of Colorado, and he's taken a great interest here. He's quite neutral and doesn't have any major crypto holdings. And there's a few dozen others that probably could do this job quite well. But it's important to understand the United States of America, we have co-equal branches of government. So it's not just about the crypto czar on the Trump administration, but there's also an equal question of how do we get this done in the House, in the Senate? Because we're going to have to pass a law, which is why I met with Tim Scott, had dinner with him, who's going to be the head of the Senate Banking Committee, which is the gatekeeper for this type of regulation. And we talk regularly with people on that side because they're going to ultimately have to write a law and pass a law for the president to sign. And only through legislation can we guarantee that we don't have another scary Gary. And we've run through what the last 3 years have been, which have been pretty horrible for us as an industry. So I can't wait to work with whoever that crypto czar is selected. And I think that we can get this done as an ecosystem. And there's so much we have to do. We announced Project Baseline. And Project Baseline is we're going to send a survey out with some partners to all the American cryptocurrency businesses and ask them to tell us the good, the bad, the ugly. What happened to you? And what did the government do to you? Where did it touch you? And then we'll put all that stuff together and then send it to the crypto czar and send it to the Senate and the Congress, so they have objective reality. They have a facts of who got hurt and why did they get hurt, what dirty tricks were played. So they have business requirements for legislation. They understand how to fix and close those gaps. And I think we can get that done as an industry over the next 120, 150 days. And it could be a major input, along with feedback from the administrative arm of the United States, to the legislative process, so that we can get a law passed sometime next year.
And you did mention Gary Gensler's name, and I think most people in this room would be very happy with the news of his recent resignation. And I would like to hear from yourself. You know, there's been some executives in crypto that have been saying with his resignation, a lot of the SEC cases that are ongoing at the moment will be dismissed or settled outside of court. How do you think it's going to play out now?
He's going to go out kicking and screaming. He's resigning literally the day that Trump takes office, and they're still going to play some dirty tricks all the way up till the end. That's just who these people are. They lie. Every day they lie, they obfuscate and harm. And when they say come in and register, it's gaslighting. It's like the Shaggy defense. You know, it wasn't me. So I have expectations of a January surprise and some last minute chicanery. But once Gary's out, good people will replace him. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be a jubilee. I do strongly believe that the regulation through enforcement will end. Doesn't mean that they're going to stop looking at fraud. Doesn't mean that they're going to just give everybody a free pass. What it does mean is a dialogue begins. And for the first time in a long time, people in the industry can go and actually talk to the SEC and not fear persecution. And for the first time in a long time, the SEC will be an ally in drafting crypto legislation. And instead of trying to obfuscate the process and harm the process, they'll be right there with the CFTC and other agencies and have a discussion about how are we going to do this. Are we going to create a new category, a new regulatory body? Are we going to create tests to move between security and commodity, and have adult conversations about everything from custody standards to consumer protections and other such things? And we as an industry can have some confidence that when we talk to these people, they're actually having a conversation with us instead of ignoring us and harming us. So I'm very, very bullish on this. And, when Gary Gensler steps out, we'll remember it as the day Gary retired. And we'll call it Scary Gary Day and move on. And we can just remember what happens when you have an unaccountable government that has embraced regulation through enforcement.
Amazing. I'm going to shoot one more question at you, Charles, and I'm going to see if anyone in the audience wants to ask a couple of questions as well. You recently met with the president of Argentina as well, Javier Milei. What was the biggest takeaway from that discussion? And I'm not sure if you can answer this. Is there a chance that Cardano may become a reserve currency in Argentina?
Well, I doubt that Argentina will embrace any cryptocurrency other than Bitcoin if they do for a reserve perspective. But actually, any reserve currency is antithetical to what Javier Milei wants to do. Unlike Bukele, who's flirted with the cryptocurrency industry, Milei is a libertarian, like proper libertarian, like Ron Paul or Ludwig von Mises or Murray Rothbard. And actually, he delivered an hour-long speech on economics, and it was like attending a PhD economist lecture. The guy is a true historian and a true academic, which means he believes in private money and competing currencies. So what he wants to do is get the government out of the business altogether of the money and actually have private industry create the money. In fact, that's what's happening in Argentina. The GDP is about $700 billion. And over $100 billion worth of stable coins have entered their economy, and they're trading and using these. And that will probably double or triple over the next 24 to 36 months, which means there's already major competing private currencies inside his nation. And I think he's going to move in that direction for as much as he can. Now, Milei, the day after I met with him, he got rid of the AFID, which is the tax authority of Argentina. That would be the equivalent of in America firing the IRS. Which, I mean, if you did that in America, you'd be as popular as George Washington or Abraham Lincoln. It's a pretty special thing. So he truly not only believes what he says, but he's doing what he says. Secretary Schwarzenegger, who's the deregulation minister, Federico, is tasked to remove 3,000 laws and regulations next year. 3,000. So we talk about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency in the United States of America. Well, the people of Argentina, they're showing us how it's done. They're getting it done on an incredible basis, and they're just moving at a light speed to get these things resolved. And that's a very exciting thing as a person who campaigned for Ron Paul back in 2007, 2008, to actually see a real life libertarian actually do what he says he's going to do. And by the way, inflation's gone from double digit to single digit. And by the way, employment is going up. The debt is under control for the first time in a long time in Argentina, and a huge amount of direct foreign investment is coming there. Because instead of going around and talking to the unions and a bunch of socialists, he went to Silicon Valley. He called up Elon Musk. He went to the cryptocurrency industry, and he said, let's bring some jobs and investments into Argentina, and we want to be number one in the world to incorporate a business. They were like number 100. It was so bureaucratic, take a year to open a business. He wants to be able to open a business in 24 hours. So that's what Milei told us. And that's what Milei's doing. And he went to Mar-a-Lago and met with Musk and Trump. And he's trying to share this to the United States and export this as kind of a philosopher king about how the world as a whole can do that. So I think it's one of the best places in the world to start a cryptocurrency business. Although now that Trump's in the United States, I'm a little biased because I want America to be the best place in the world to start a cryptocurrency business. So we're going to work real hard at that.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Charles. We're going to have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. Does anyone from the crowd have a question for Charles? We'll go at the front here.
Hi, Charles. Eric here. I was wondering if you could, how much you could tell us about Midnight and the token drop for the Midnight token that's going to happen.
Is that Eric DeCastro Lupo? Eric has worked for Input Output for many years. In fact, I went down to Australia to see him years ago. He's one of the best Haskell programmers in the world, actually. So he's a great engineer. Midnight, Cardano is going to have the largest distribution, but we're trying to bring everybody together. And so a paper on tokenomics will be published next year, more likely than not, probably early next year, but we'll see that schedule. But the team is really excited to bring that out. So it's a bit premature to give you specifics outside of the fact that Cardano is the network that Midnight is launching from. So Midnight is not like a normal cryptocurrency launch where it's like, hey, all these centralized actors will control everything for 3 to 5 years. Trust us, bro. It's launching from day one decentralized. And it'll only launch through the actions and activities of millions of people who have never met each other. So it's really a radically different way of doing things. And we think the distribution model is going to be used again and again and again for service layer cryptocurrency projects. Midnight's intention is to be a service layer for private computation for the entire blockchain space. If this model is successful, it can be reused for decentralized large language models to compete with OpenAI, decentralized hosting to compete with Alchemy and Infura, and all these other guys that are centralized things, as well as any other service that a DApp is going to consume in the Web3 world. So a large chunk of the success is the consensus algorithm, the bridge infrastructure, and the tokenomics, which is why it's taken so long to try to tune this and get it right. And I think people are going to be very happy, all things considered.
Thanks, Charles. I've just been informed there's actually a speaker box as well, so I can throw this out. So who else has a question for Charles that might want to, I hope it's foam, otherwise it's going to really hurt. But anyway, catch, ready? Oh. Yeah. And just speak into the
okay.
mic.
Hi. I'm Esme. I've got 2 questions. So one, okay, in US, why do they classify things like Ethereum or Cardano as security or non-security, whereas in Australia we don't have such a classification? Why can't you just make crypto as a special group? I mean, have a crypto czar who makes it very special. That does not, like that way you don't get, if Celsius has, for example, they pay you interest, right? Then they get into trouble. Or Coinbase pays you interest, they get into trouble. That's one question. Secondly, and why not Michael Saylor as the crypto czar? He's the best.
Well, Michael Saylor said that all cryptocurrencies outside of Bitcoin are illegal securities and should be, basically not traded. So I don't feel comfortable as a member of the industry with somebody who says that we should basically ban everything that he doesn't buy. You need somebody who's neutral, who actually says, hey, I'm going to create fair rules for everybody. not just Bitcoin. So be very careful with these types of things. And that's not saying he's not a good investor. That's not saying MicroStrategy is not doing well and that he wears his heart on his sleeve. But there's no place in my heart for maximalism. We all have to get along as industry. Second, asset regulation that's based on classification instead of functional regulation is very problematic, which is why the Securities Exchange Commission has been so damaging, because it's not possible for somebody to come in and register if an asset is truly decentralized. For example, who speaks for Ethereum or Bitcoin or Cardano? You say, oh, well, this person over there. I said, well, here's a thought experiment. If that person dies, retires, or disappears, would the cryptocurrency still be around? As tragic as it would be if I died in a plane crash, or if Vitalik decided to become a Buddhist monk and live in Tibet, or Satoshi disappeared, I got news for you. Cardano, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, they're still going to be around. So how does a registration regime work when it's not clear if anybody's in charge and nobody can speak on behalf of it? It doesn't make any sense. Security regulation was written for things like a company. You got Microsoft, you got Apple, you got a product, and that product has an issuer and a controller, and your entire possibility of return is based upon that controller's activities and abilities. So when you buy Tesla, you're betting on Elon Musk, and you're betting on the people Elon Musk picked and his board picked to get you a great return. And maybe he does a great job, maybe he doesn't do a great job, but that's how a security works. When you buy Bitcoin or Cardano or Ethereum, it's really hard to point to a single entity or person and say, well, that's the person that I'm solely betting on. You might like MicroStrategy, but what about Blockstream? What about MIT? What about all the miners? What about all the different? It's the same for Cardano. We have an on-chain government. There are thousands of people, 1.4 million stakers all around, thousands of projects, 8 million assets that have been issued. Which one of those is the one that you're betting on? Some people might get very excited about SingularityNet, a decentralized AI, or Midnight, or get excited about World Mobile, a decentralized internet service provider on Cardano. Or other people may get excited about NFTs on Cardano, like Clay Nation. So securities regulation makes no sense at all, because it's a collective enterprise of a cooperative of millions in 100+ countries. In many cases, they have no relationship to each other. So in America, we need to update our laws, because the problem is the laws were written in 1933, before almost everybody listening was born. Okay, very, very long time ago, 1933. Most people didn't have electricity or running water in their homes. This was before computers existed. And yet somehow a law written in 1933 should apparently apply to all cryptocurrencies. And the SEC should demand 90 years of standards be inflicted on a new asset that's completely different. And that's what Mike Saylor apparently advocated. So what we have to do is update and modernize the laws. We did this in the 90s for the internet. We've done this for the aerospace business. We've done this for the personal computer business. We've done this for Facebook. We've done this for Microsoft. We did it for the oil and gas business. We did it for the biotechnology business. We've done it for every industry. And the only reason we haven't done it in America for the cryptocurrency space is because for some reason, a small group of Democrats in the United States decided to just pretend like you didn't need to pass a law, and to use regulation through enforcement and pick winners and losers and harm people they didn't like, which is why there was inconsistent application of the law. And it's been very challenging. So the good news is next year, a law is going to be passed. We're going to get it done. And then we don't have to worry about this anymore. You know what happens? We compete fairly, and there's merit, and good entrepreneurs and good ecosystems, and the best technology is going to win. And you all win because of that. Because every year the cryptocurrency space is around, you get more open source technology, you get more protocols, and ultimately you get more use and utility. I remember when I signed up, there was just Bitcoin. It's a very long time ago. It was 14 years. And now we got zero knowledge proofs, and we got DeFi, we got NFTs and metaverses and stable coins, and we got DEXs, and we got trillions of dollars of capital floating around. And we got nation states adopting these things. You got voting systems, you got supply chain systems, you got security tokens and tokenized real estate. We didn't have any of these things. And all of these things are open source, which means the poorest entrepreneur in the world, who has almost no startup capital, has access to the same financial products as BlackRock and Goldman Sachs and the wealthiest people in Silicon Valley. It's the great equalizer. And that's what we always have to focus on as an industry, is get the regulation out of the way so that people can innovate and compete with each other and get things done.
Thanks, Charles. I reckon we have time for one more. This man with both his hands up, very enthusiastic. How about over here?
Hello, Charles. Anything you want to add or say to the XRP Army?
You know, I want to say that I had a great call with Brad Garlinghouse, and I had a great call with David Schwartz. By the way, David is a very bright man, and it was a deeply technical call, and that dude can keep up. We had 3 PhDs in that call who are world experts in their domain, and Schwartz is just smart. And you guys are very lucky to have him floating around. And, you know, it's been a little hostile and tense, and I said I'm sorry about my part of it. And, you know, we just got to move on. And what's real exciting is after we got past that uncomfortable friction, we started talking about real stuff. I think there are some amazing things that Midnight can bring to XRP. And I think there are some amazing things that the XRP community can bring to Midnight. And that's what it's all about. It's about partnerships. And the reality is we make each other better. Dave got real excited about Marlowe, got real excited about some of the prospects of Midnight, especially with escrow accounts. And we really got excited over the fact that Ripple is becoming fast one of the great settlement payment standards of the world. And that's been around for as long as I've been in the industry. And that's another cool thing is that, you know, David and I have been in the industry for pretty much the same amount of time. So we know where all the bodies are buried. We kind of know where everybody cheated and everybody did good work. And there's not many people I can call and talk to with that long of a memory. Most of the people I talk to, they got on board in 2021 or 2017 and maybe in 2013. But to talk to somebody who's been around from when I was around 2010 is pretty crazy. And also talk to somebody that really understands the technology and the depth of it. And Brad is a super collaborative guy and very happy-go-lucky. He's a happy warrior. He fights hard for his community, but he's always got a good attitude. He's always a very positive guy, and he's always pushing forward. So I can't wait for how we can work together in 2025. What they're doing right now is take a look at the Midnight testnet. We're having a lot of questions about it, and we'd like to find a way, if we can, to include XRP in the airdrop so that XRP users can actually be part of that story. And I really do believe it's going to add something unique that's going to create an enormous amount of value for the Ripple ecosystem, and also create an enormous amount of value for Cardano. I've noticed that there's a lot of overlap between the Cardano community and the XRP community. It's always felt kind of wrong that we've been at odds at times, and I had a part in that. And as I said, I'm sorry for it, and I'm glad we got to the other side of it. And now we can just focus on being happy together and building together. Because you know what? There's a lot of people out there that want to see us fail. And so why should we be at each other's throats? We should go and win and succeed.
Righty. Charles, thank you so much for your time. I think we've got one last question on behalf of everyone here. Will you be joining us at Australian CryptoCon next year in 2025? Will you fly over?
I tried really hard to be out there, but unfortunately, you see the logo behind me. I'm actually up in Gillette, Wyoming, and I've had board meetings for the last 2 days with my clinic and my construction company. In fact, I'll show you guys something really cool. So that right there is my table. You can see I have my little mini Blackhawk and the construction helmets and those things like that. So we've been working real hard up here because we're building a $100 million healthcare clinic that does anti-aging regenerative medicine. And this was the only time we could do board meetings because I have to go to Argentina soon for the Cardano Constitutional Convention. So I'm kind of on the other side of the planet from Australia, or else I would have went there because I typically try to do Australia and Japan together, sometimes Indonesia. So I'll make every effort to be out there next year, and if not, I'd be happy to come back virtually. And I'm sorry I have to come in this medium because I really enjoy being there in person, meeting people, shaking hands. And the Australian cryptocurrency community is phenomenal. You know, there's some of the nicest people, there's some of the smartest people, except for Craig Wright. Outside of that, we're good.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Charles. We'll catch you next year.
Cheers.